Welcome back to the channel, guys. So I previously brought up in my Pokemon Snap video that I'm a massive Pokemon fan, and I've been with the series pretty much since it started in 1998. Since I'm not ready to do a full-on retrospective of the series or a particular generation, I decided to do a video on something I wanted to do for years, a Pokemon Nuzlocke. I debated for a bit on what game to start with, and I decided on one of my all-time favorites, Pokemon Leaf Green. For those unaware, a Pokemon Nuzlocke is a set of rules that make a usual playthrough of Pokemon much harder. There are 3 ironclad rules when it comes to a Nuzlocke. The first is you can only catch 1 Pokemon per route or area, and if you knock them out or they run away, you give up your chance to catch any Pokemon in that route. Though most will make an exception for shiny Pokemon if they show up during your run. The second rule is that if your Pokemon is knocked out, it's considered dead, and you have to release it or store it in the PC box. Third rule is you have to nickname your Pokemon, so you can build a stronger bond with them throughout the run. From there, you can set whatever rules you want to your Nuzlocke to make them more difficult if you want. For my run, I added the rule I couldn't use healing items during battles, and that I wouldn't use any legendary Pokemon either. Booting up the game, not gonna lie, got hit with a lot of nostalgia, as the last time I touched the game was when I was a freshman in high school. Almost 15 years ago now. Jesus Christ, I'm old. Speeding through the intro, I named my character after myself, Los, and give my rival the appropriate name, Assface. After running around a bit and talking to Professor Oak, I can finally choose my first Pokemon and go with the starter I chose back in the day, Bulbasaur, who I named Bulby because I'm very uncreative. Assface chooses Charmander, and after a quick fight, I'm on my way to Viridian City. Grabbing the parcel for Oak at the Pokemart, I deliver it to him, and he forces his dream of recording data on all Pokemon onto us, giving us the Pokédex and some Pokeballs. With that, the Nuzlocke can officially begin. Walking into Route 1, I capture a Pidgey I named Falco, and heading west of Viridian City into Route 22, I find a Rattata I named Lil Chef. Grinding for a bit, I head deeper into Route 22 and bump into Assface again. Both of his Pokemon are at level 9, but he's not that tough. Stomping him again, I grind some more and head into Viridian Forest. Here I capture a Weedle and name him Pokey, and sweep through most of the area without much trouble. Though I did almost lose Falco when I got poisoned and had to run all the way back to the Pokemon Center in order to heal him. Leaving the forest, Pokey evolves into Kakuna and I step into Pewter City. I head for the gym and face off against the first gym leader, Brock. He's using Rock-type Pokemon, which, unfortunately for him, my Bulby counters pretty hard. After quoting Spider-Man 3,
"You're trash, Brock."
he gives me the TM for Rock Tomb, and I leave town heading towards Mount Moon. Getting too cocky, I immediately fuck up and lose Lil Chef to the last on the next route. Sorry, Lil Chef. I never watched your movie anyhow. On the upside, Pokey evolves into Beedrill, and I catch a Mankey in the grass, naming him Baki. After making my way through the area, I meet a nice fellow who offers me a deal I can't pass up.
Boy, hey you boy, come here.
Are you addressing me?
I want you to have a look at this Pokemon.
Huh? What is this thing?
Buying the Magikarp, I name my new teammate, James. Stepping into Mount Moon, I catch a Zubat and name him Bruce. Not too long afterwards, Bulby evolves into Ivysaur. I work my way through the cave, beat up Team Rocket, scoop up a Dome Fossil, and evolve Falco into Pidgeotto, before finally leaving Mount Moon. Walking through the next area, I step into Cerulean City, and get ready to face off against the next gym leader, Misty. Since I have Ivysaur, her gym for the most part is a joke. That is until I get to Misty herself. Specifically her Starmie. The thing is tanky, soaking up my super effective hits, so I decide to stall it out, using Leech Seed to drain it and Sleep Powder to put it to sleep. After chipping away at it, I get my second gym badge. Before heading to the Nugget Bridge to face off against Assface, I take some time to grind up Baki and Falco. Once I'm ready, I head north and fight with my rival again. I knew this next fight would be tough since 2 of Assface's Pokemon had a type advantage over Bulby. So I led with Falco, outspeeding and taking out his own Pidgeotto. His next Pokemon, Rattata, is where I fumble the ball. Baki taking 2 heavy hits before he manages to knock it out. Thankfully, Abra is a joke since it has no offensive moves, but then he throws out Charmander. Originally, my plan was to fight him with Baki using Rock Tomb, but since he couldn't take another hit, I went in with Falco instead. I get in some decent hits before he burns Falco and puts him in the red. I could have finished the fight right then and there, but would have lost Falco, and unsure if Bulby could live through 2 embers, I have no choice but to sub in Bruce the Zubat to eat the hit. Goodbye, Bruce. You were the Pokemon I needed, but not the one I deserved. With Bruce dead, I send in Bulby to finish off his Charmander and to win the match. With my rival taken care of, I heal up and decide now's a good time to grind up James the Magikarp towards evolving him into Gyarados. Admittedly, I should have probably tried to do this in Mount Moon and before facing my rival, but it would have taken forever grinding only on wild Pokemon. After moving through the Nugget Bridge, I catch a Bellsprout in the grass I named DSL, because, well, look at those lips on her. Clearing out the rest of the route, I make it to Bill's house, turn him back to a human, and get the SS Sand ticket. Nothing too interesting after this. Taking the underground tunnel, I make it to Route 6 and catch a Meowth, who I name Mondays. Going through Vermilion City, I head into the Diglett Cave and catch one of my own to use against Lieutenant Surge later. I name her Greta. Taking out the trainers on Route 11 and getting the Versus Seeker, I grind a bit more and finally evolve James into Gyarados. The trip through the SS Sand is nothing special. I challenge Assface again, and thanks to being much better prepared, I sweep his team without any problems. Getting the HM for cut, I can finally take on Lieutenant Surge. With Greta on the team, it goes as well as you'd expect. The little Diglett sweeping through Lieutenant Surge and all of his trainers. Leaving Vermilion City, I head into Route 9, and then 10, and then the Rock Tunnel without any real issues. I do pick up a Voltorb on the way I named Splody, and a Geodude I named Swole. Leaving the Rock Tunnel, I make it to Lavender City, but don't bother to take on the Pokemon Tower just yet, since I don't have the Silph Scope and instead grind my way through routes 8 and 7. Once in Celadon City, I scoop up the Eevee from the Pokemon Mansion, and I name him Triple H. I won't evolve him just yet, as I want to see what kind of type diversity I have near the end game. Goofing around the city for a bit, talking to NPCs and collecting items, I finally go to Erica's gym. I destroy all the trainers there with Falco, but hit a speed bump with Erica. Her Victory Bell manages to paralyze Falco, and take him down to half health before I can take him out. I decide to save Falco for her Vileplume, sending Bulby to put her Tangela to sleep before sending James out to fight it. I cheese the fight with Dragon Rage, but end up getting poisoned for my trouble. Not wanting to risk James against Vileplume, Bulby steps in to put Vileplume to bed before Falco comes back out. It manages to put me in the red, but thankfully I knock it out and get my 4th gym badge. Healing up the team, I head to the game corner and head down into the Rocket Hideout. The Grunts don't pose any real challenge. Their boss is a different story though. Giovanni's first 2 Pokemon get one-shotted easily by Bulby, but the real problem was his Kangaskhan. Its high attack and stab Mega Punch meant that it could easily KO most of my team, as I didn't have anything that could resist it. I decide to go with James, using Intimidate to lower her attack, and then getting really lucky when Secret Power paralyzes her, letting him outspeed her. I chip away with some Dragon Rage, take her out, and scoop the Silph Scope. On the way out, I fight one more Grunt, and Bulby ends up evolving into Venusaur. Heading back over to the Pokemon Tower, I stomp my rival again and catch a Ghastly I named Buffy. The tower is a perfect place to grind it up and evolve it, but before I do, I decide to give myself an edge. Heading back to the Celadon game corner, I grind coins to buy Shadow Ball and Thunderbolt. Trust me, this took a while. Yikes. I teach Buffy Shadow Ball for now and destroy everything on my way up the tower, eventually evolving her into Haunter. At the top of the tower, I take out the Rocket Grunts, evolve Baki into Primeape, and get the Pokeflute for Mr. Fuji. Moving on to Saffron City, I head into Mr. Psychic's house in order to teach Buffy Psychic. Using her and Falco, we conquer the fighting dojo, recruit Jackie the Hitmonchan, and evolve Falco into Pidgeot. We then move on to the horrible grind that is the Silphco headquarters. Honestly, I forgot how confusing and long this segment was. How the hell did we do this as kids? Eventually, I figured out the way to the room with my rival, and I had to stop and plan things out a lot here. Most of his team was at the same level or higher than my own, but his Charizard was the biggest problem. Coming up with a strategy, I said my prayers, and I challenged him. He led with his Pidgeot while I countered with Buffy. Thanks to teaching her Thunderbolt before the fight, I was able to 2-shot it no problem. Next was Execute, who I countered with Falco, 2-shotting it but getting paralyzed in the process. After that was Alakazam, who I managed to 1-shot with Greta. Gyarados was next, who, like last time, I used Bulby to stall out with Sleep Powder and Leech Seed. Finally, I came face to face with his powerhouse, Charizard. I sent in James to lower his attack power, but the type advantage wouldn't be enough to take it out. For those who don't know, in Gens 1 to 3, a move is determined as a physical or special attack based off of the move's typing, not the move itself. So being a water type move, Gyarados' Water Pulse is considered a special move. Problem is, his physical attack is much higher than his special attack, meaning that even with Charizard being weak to water, I'm still not doing a lot of damage. I let off with Secret Power, RNGesus blessing me with paralysis on him. I start chipping him down with Water Pulse, and he wastes a turn with Scary Face. He does manage to burn me with Flamethrower, but then it's too late, and I finish him with Dragon Rage. After that nerve-wracking fight, the scientist rewards me with a Lapras, who I name Elsa. Thanks to Buffy and Bulby, Giovanni isn't a big deal, and I'm finally done with Silph, getting the Master Ball for all my trouble. Next stop is Sabrina's gym. When I get there, I sweep through most of the trainers with Buffy, but, of course, I hit a speed bump against Sabrina. Buffy is too fragile against her psychic types, and since her Shadow Ball ran off her attack stat, there was no way she could one-shot Sabrina's team without being taken out. So I led with Falco, whose speed and high attack took out her Kadabra no problem. Next was Mr. Mime, who Falco managed to bring down to half health before I had to swap in James to finish him. James took some damage himself, so I swapped to Greta to fight her Venomoth. Again, not too much of a problem. Then we came up to Alakazam. With my heavy hitters in a sad state, and the rest of my team having a weakness to Alakazam, I was worried this could end up being a team wipe. Instead, RNGesus blessed me again as Alakazam wasted 2 turns setting up Future Sight, letting Greta get off 2 magnitudes for the win. Realizing my team was a bit underleveled, I did some grinding on the cycling road before taking on Koga's gym. Nothing to mention here, all the Poison-type Pokemon were no match against the combo of Buffy and Greta, demolishing him and everyone there. After that, I head to the Safari Zone to grab the HM for Surf, and grab the Gold Teeth too. Before leaving, I try my chances at trying to fish up a Dratini, but instead end up with a Goldeen instead. Returning the teeth to the Warden, and receiving the HM for Strength, I head back to the Rock Cave, surfing on the river to get to the power plant. I don't go very far, only going deep enough to trigger an encounter, and capturing a Magnemite, who I name Eric Lenscher. You know, this guy. On my way to Cinnabar Island, I fight the swimmers on Route 19 and 20 to grind Eric up, until finally he evolves into Magneton. I also decided now was a good time to swap out James and bring in Elsa the Lapras, because as useful as having James has been, I really wanted a water type with a high special attack to sweep Blaine with, and eventually have her as a counter for Lance and his dragons down the line. After some grinding, and getting lost in the Pokemon Mansion, I'm finally ready to take on Blaine's gym. All the trainers here are fodder for Elsa, and I was hoping the same would be true of Blaine, but I miscalculated slightly. Blaine's Growlithe and Ponyta fall to Elsa easily enough, but his Rapidash manages to connect with Fire Blast, knocking a third of her HP off before I knock it off with Surf. Then he brought out his Arcanine, which I had no idea was at level 47, stronger than anyone on my team. I knew off the bat his Arcanine was faster than Elsa, so I was terrified he'd one-shot her before I could get off a Surf. Thankfully, Fire Blast missed, and I knocked him down into the red. Then Blaine used a Hyper Potion. Then Elsa knocks him down into the red again. Then Blaine uses another Hyper Potion. Then I knock him down into the red again. Finally, he goes for Fire Blast, and I almost had a heart attack as I watched Elsa's HP drop down. Through a miracle, she hangs in there with a sliver of health, and I finally finish him off. Honestly, I don't know what I would have done if Elsa got taken out. I probably could have outsped his Arcanine with Greta, but losing Elsa would have screwed up my plans for the Elite Four. After leaving Blaine's gym, I bump into Bill, who wants to drag me off to the Sevi Islands and won't take no for an answer. Before agreeing to leave, I head to the Pokemon Lab and pick up my new Aerodactyl, who I name Rodan. There's not much going on in the Sevi Islands, and I decided to just speedrun it so I can get back to Kanto. Thanks to the grinding I did on one island, Bulby and Elsa demolished Giovanni. And with that, I have all 8 badges and can finally challenge the Elite Four. Making my way to Victory Road, Assface challenges me to a battle. He leads with Pidgeot, who Eric one-shots no problem. However, he immediately follows up with his Charizard, which I wasn't really expecting. I'm guessing his AI took Magneton's Steel typing into account and decided Charizard was the best counter, so I send out Elsa to deal with him, which immediately I see a problem as Charizard outlevels and outspeeds her. He lands a Flamethrower that takes her down to about half health. Surf is enough to bring him to the red, but not enough to finish him off. His next Flamethrower gives him a high damage roll, almost knocking out Elsa as I finish him with Surf. Like Blaine, this fight was another wake-up call, as his Charizard's damage and speed meant he could have decimated my team if Elsa died. The rest of the fight is a clean sweep for my team, but with the Elite Four on the horizon, and Assface bringing his strongest team as the champion, I decided I had to choose my final team and prepare. Despite being on the team since the beginning, it was with a heavy heart I had to bench Falco and bring in Rodan to fill her spot. Rodan's speed and rock typing being the perfect counter for my rival's Charizard. After a long grinding session to level up Rodan and the rest of my team, I was ready to take on Victory Road. There wasn't much to it. At this point I just wanted to get to the Elite Four as fast as possible, so I use a max repel and go around avoiding any unnecessary fights. At the exit to the cave, I talk to the Ace Trainer in order to teach Rodan Double Edge to round out his moveset. Finally ascending the Indigo Plateau, I made sure to get the final movesets for my team ready. Taking a deep breath, I was ready to go. First up is the Ice Trainer, Lorelei. She leads with Dugong, and I counter with Eric. Eric outspeeds her with the Quick Claw, but unfortunately doesn't manage to one-shot her, letting Dugong set up Hail. Next turn, predictably Lorelei heals up Dugong, so I hit it with Tri-Attack first, and then finish it with Thunderbolt next turn. Next is Cloyster, who stalls the first turn with Protect, but goes down in the second from Thunderbolt. Her third Pokemon is Slowbro, thankfully one-shotting it without any trouble. Lapras soon follows, who gives me a bit of trouble due to her bulk, being able to tank my Thunderbolt, and a combo of Confuse Ray and Surf knocked Eric down into the red. Taking a chance, I go for one more Thunderbolt, finishing her off this time. Her last Pokemon was Jinx, who Rodan finished off with Double Edge. With that, Lorelei was done, and I could move on to the next room. Healing up, I faced off against the fighting trainer, Bruno. Bruno leads with Onix, who I one-shot with Volby. Next is Hitmonchan, who goes down to Rodan without any problems. His powerhouse Machamp followed, managing to tank my first wing attack, but wasting his first turn with Scary Face. One more wing attack, and he goes down. Next up, Elsa takes care of his Onix, and Rodan returns to finish off his Hitmonlee. A much smoother run compared to Lorelei. Agatha, the Ghost-type trainer, was next, and I immediately dropped the ball in this fight. She leads with Gengar, and I lead with Buffy, hoping to outspeed it and take it out with Psychic. Unfortunately, her Gengar uses Shadow Punch to take priority, one-shotting my poor Buffy. My third death in the game, and first during this final run. No time to mourn though. I send in Rodan, taking out her Gengar with 2 Ancient Powers. Since I didn't have anything super effective against her team anymore, I decided to send in Eric next, since his Steel typing made him immune to poison and resist Ghost. A good counter for her Arbok. I used Thunder Wave to paralyze it, and then 2 Thunderbolts to put it down. Next was her Haunter, who I took out with Rodan. Golbat followed after, taking it out with Rock Slide. Her final Gengar is where I ran into some real trouble. I lead with Eric, hoping to paralyze it like I did Arbok before. But the Quick Claw fails, and Gengar manages to land Hypnosis. I press my luck, hoping that Eric can wake up and land Thunder Wave, but instead I get hit with Nightmare, taking a good chunk of damage. Worried about losing Eric, I tag in Rodan instead, who tanks his Shadow Ball and follows up with Ancient Power, but still not being able to one-shot it. Unfortunately, he gets put to sleep too, so I'm forced to tag in Volby now. Gengar outspeeds Volby, but misses the Hypnosis, and thankfully Volby lands the Leech Seed. I hope I can put him to sleep like he's done my team, but he lands the next Hypnosis. Next is James, the Gyarados' turn to step in, giving me a heart attack when he gets hit by a critical hit Sludge Bomb, knocking him down to less than half health. Thanks to Leech Seed chipping away at Gengar, I was hoping to one-shot it with Hydro Pump, but I missed instead. Leech Seed brings Gengar into the red, but Agatha just uses a full restore. But thanks to landing the next 2 Hydro Pumps, and a little extra push from Leech Seed, Gengar and Agatha were finally taken care of. That fight was nerve-wracking, and honestly it probably would have made more sense to bring out Elsa instead of James, but since she'd be so important to the next fight, I didn't want to risk it. Healing everyone up, I move on to the final member of the Elite Four, challenging Lance and his army of dragons. Eric takes the lead against his Gyarados, one-shotting it with Thunderbolt. Elsa steps up next to take care of his first Dragonair, one-shotting it with Ice Beam. Eric tags back in to take out his Aerodactyl, who thankfully didn't have Earthquake on it. Elsa takes care of his second Dragonair, and to my amazement, manages to land a critical hit on his Dragonite, dropping his dragons without any problem. Healing up one last time, I step through the final door to confront Assface. First matchup is Eric versus his Pidgeot. It lands a Sand attack, but Thunderbolt still lands, one-shotting it. Like our last fight, he immediately follows up with his strongest Pokemon, Charizard. I was ready this time, as I had my own not-a-dragon Pokemon to counter it, Rodan. Not wanting to take any risks, I go for Ancient Power, and watching his health slowly drain, I breathed a sigh of relief, as I had one-shotted his best Pokemon. The rest of his team didn't stand much of a chance. Eric taking out Gyarados, Elsa taking care of Rhydon and Exeggutor, and Rodan finishing off his Alakazam. I became the champion, and with that, my first Pokemon Nuzlocke was a success. Despite only having a few deaths, it was definitely a stressful experience. The farther and farther I got into the game, the more meticulous I had to be with planning out my Pokemon and their movesets. Also, since I hadn't played the game since high school, there were times where I was caught off guard with the trainers' teams. Specifically my rival, as there were plenty of times where things easily could have gone wrong if I didn't get lucky. But it was a really enjoyable experience. I haven't really stopped playing Pokemon at all since the Red and Blue days, but the series has gotten way too easy. Ignoring things like the experience share, the newer games are too generous with giving out Pokemon, and making most trainers a cakewalk. So being able to give myself a legit challenge where I can only catch a certain amount of Pokemon was a breath of fresh air, and will probably have me revisiting more games in the series. And that's the video. Thanks for watching, everyone. It'll probably be a while before I attempt another Nuzlocke, but feel free to comment below with suggestions on which game to play next. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like, and if you're new to the channel, I would appreciate it if you subscribed. I know I haven't been on YouTube long, but it's been a great experience so far, and I've enjoyed being able to revisit older games and talking to others about it. Needless to say, I'll be continuing to make videos as we go into 2021, continuing to grow and evolve my video style. I'm Fuzzy Slippers, everyone have a happy new year, and I'll see you guys next year. Peace.